Hi, we're going to learn about for loops. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to run this code, okay? And I want you to record what happened. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to have idle, and look, I started it. And look what I'm going to do. Not that. I'm going to copy and paste. And then I'm going to copy and paste. And I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. Copy, paste. Okay. So I'm going to save it. Okay. Now I'm going to run this. Oh, it printed hi, bye, and it repeated that 5 times. Okay. Pretty much what we expected. Okay. Now I want you to run this code. Okay, and be careful about how you type it in. And I want you to record what happened. Now I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I need to indent. I'm going to indent. I'm using the tabs. Then I'm going to save. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and run. And look, it printed the exact same thing. But I want you to notice that it only took 1, 2, 3 lines of code, and the last time it took 10 lines of code. So we got the same output, but we used fewer lines of code. And I find this easier to read because I can see, oh, this got repeated 5 times. In the other case, you had to count how many lines. Okay, so we're going to talk about repeating code in general. In programming, we will often want to repeat lines of code a set number of times. Okay? In our example, we repeated the code 5 times. In general, it is good programming practice to write your code using as few lines of code as possible. This makes the code easier to read and faster to write. So if someone else looks at my code, they can quickly figure out what's going on. And I should be able to write it faster. Whenever we observe that code is being repeated, it is often better to use a for loop. So sometimes you'll start writing code, and you'll realize that you're repeating some things, and you should start thinking about, oh, maybe I can use a loop, a for loop here. Okay, so I just want to talk about the for loop syntax. Syntax is basically how you write something. So the first thing at the bottom here is an example. So we always have a for I in range, and then we have some number. So you can see here, for I in range, and then we have the number 5 here. Notice there's a colon at the end of that line. See this colon here? Notice that these 2 lines here were indented. Okay? So in general, this is going to be the syntax for a for loop in Python. Now what I'd like for you to do is run this code and see if you can sort of explain the output. Okay, so I'm going to modify my code here, and I think I had, let me look and see what I had. Oops. Peanut butter, okay. So, peanut butter, Okay, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna run it. Look, it repeated peanut butter 8 times, but jelly was only printed out once. Okay. Okay, so this slide here basically explains to you what just took place. What is indented is called the body of the for loop. So in our example, the only line that was indented under the for I in range line was print peanut butter. Okay, what is indented is called the body of the for loop. Okay, and that's the part of the code that's going to be repeated. So basically what's happening is it goes here, prints this line, goes back up to the top, then goes into the body, prints it up, goes back to the top. And it basically just keeps on doing this. It just did it 8 times, and then when it's done with that, it just reads the next line of code, right? Because in programming, lines are just executed sequential. Now what I would like for you to do is run the code below and try to explain the output. So I remove the indentation, I save it, and now I'm going to run it. Ooh, I got an error here. It said expected an indented block. So what's going on here? Well, basically when there's a for loop, there has to be a body. There has to be something for it to repeat. And basically, there's nothing indented. So this for loop has no body, and Python said, what you wrote doesn't make any sense, and I'm going to tell you about it, and I'm not going to do anything. So basically, right after here, when it went to the next line, it realized the for loop didn't have a body, and it basically quit running the program. See, it never even got to this line, because this line could execute. Okay, so notice if we put the indentation back, we save it, and we run it, oop, worked just fine. So anyway, I hope you found this useful about for loops.